Hey guys, so we're going to do part 3 of my guitar collection with some stories. This is the Gretch 6118 LTV, LTV standing for Lacquer TV Jones. It's an anniversary model, and I've owned many Gretches over the years. Gretches have been an interesting thing for me. I have this saying that I always say, I think Gretches just make you cooler. And the reason that is because like a classic car, you know, it's kind of like, imagine this, if you were a mega rich and you had a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and a monster truck and all these crazy cars in there, and Mercedes, and you had one classic car, you know that car always sticks out. There's just something magical about that. And for some reason, Gretch has that vibe. It has this classic car vibe, which is cool. But Gretches give me what I call guitar guilt, which means I buy one, and because they're expensive, after a while I feel like I shouldn't have this guitar. It's just too much money, and pushes my comfort zone of what I want to pay for guitar. So I've actually owned 2 of these. This is my second one. The first one I got and I loved, and then for some reason after about a year I decided I was guitar guilt with it, and I was the guilt of owning it was too much, so I sold it. And then the problem, the mistake, when I mentioned it was for sale, one of the teachers that works for me, Matt, bought it, and because he works for me, I see him about once a week with it, and I missed it every time I saw it. It was like visitation rights. So I couldn't take it anymore, so I got another one. What's unique about it is it's an anniversary model, it's a limited model, but it also is small. You can see it's just slightly bigger than a Les Paul. It is a full hollow body guitar. It's got this cool green gold back and a black top. The Ibanez fretboard and jumbo frets, or sorry, medium jumbo frets, locking tuning keys, Corian nut. It's just a great guitar. It has what's called a mud switch. If you're not familiar with Gretches, they don't put a tone control on it. What they do is a switch right here. So we know what a 3-way switch is, right? Bridge, middle, and neck, or blend. In the bridge position, if your switch is in the middle, this is the tone switch off. Down is the tone switch halfway, and then up is the switch all the way, like your knob, right, all the way back. I like that because I can get kind of like this. So versus this with it off, so you just get kind of got jazzy. Get the idea. Let's talk about the next guitar. Gibson Les Paul. This is a standard Gibson Les Paul, Les Paul standard. I believe it's a plus top. Ooh, it's got a little chevroning going there. This was owned by one of my other guitar teachers, and he traded in and got this beautiful Paul Reed Smith. And it's kind of heavy. And you know, if you've seen most of my videos, especially if you go back to the old days where I was Facebooking videos before, if you're paying attention, there's got to be at least a half a dozen Les Pauls throughout the videos that I've owned. And what happened was I owned a Les Paul standard that I bought off another dealer that I deal with, and I bought it for like $1,400 bucks, and it was amazing. It was like 7.5, 8 pounds, probably 8 pounds. It was just 7.5 pounds, and it was really good, but it didn't have the magic. And so, long story, if you look through all the videos, there's this Cherry Burst one that I had that was a Les Paul standard. That now my other buddy Matt has that. That guitar is what ruined me forever. I had this amazing blue one that I sold to a buddy, if you look in the videos, and that was a custom shop one, and that one sounded great. However, it just got to a point where I wanted something a little less exotic and something more traditional. And so I got the Cherry Burst one through a trade I did, and that guitar was so good. Believe it or not, My only issue is I really just wanted something not cherry burst. I know it's a great color, but I wanted something more like lemon or tobacco, or just something like tea, you know, right? Just something a little darker. And so I got rid of it. What's funny is that guitar really messed me up because it was perfect. It sounded perfect. It played amazing. It just had everything right. Just the color wasn't right. This guitar is a great, except for it's a little heavy. It's about 10.5 pounds. So it's a weighty guitar. But I've come up with a theory that if you don't like heavy Les Pauls, you just don't like Les Pauls. Because you're never going to find a great Les Paul, right? Unless, of course, you get to, you know, like the weight a little bit. And since I don't use one of these to play out, and I never would, just because it's too heavy. Although, I always like, just do some curls with it, right? You should do the Les Paul workout is what I call it. Just sit there. If you think it's heavy, just lift it. You know, true story. I think I said this in one of the other videos. I don't want to duplicate myself, but I once was talking to Nuno Bencourt in a meet and greet environment, and I mentioned to him that I have a Padauk N4. At that time I did, and it was heavy. And I said, "Is that why you don't play it? Because it's heavy?" And he literally in front of all my buddies said, "What?" This is what he said. He goes, "What? No, man. Just lift it above your head and work out with it." He goes, "It's not heavy." And of course, my friends really punch me with that one every couple months or so. They go, "Remember when Nuno told you need to work out?" There's worse things. It wasn't mean. He was very nice. He just thought it was weird that I was basically pointing out a 10-pound guitar is heavy. Guess I gotta man up. So this guitar is what I'll keep for a while unless I find another one. Les Pauls are easy. I'm looking for like a lemon one, you know, something like this, but in a lemon burst. This one just looks old. See, that's what I love about Les Pauls like this. This is definitely my guitar teacher that owned this. This is a 2005. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 2005. It's a 2005. So it's a 2005, but he plays in a Motown tribute band. So he gigged with it, and it's got the mojo now. So definitely cool. My number one, my Riker, if you will, to the Picard. This is the guitar that is my number one guitar. Now, I will say this, if I could only own one guitar, it would probably just be a Strat. But this would be the close second to either own, or if I maybe would pick this instead of a Strat, I'm not sure. This is my Paul Reed Smith Mira. This is not the S2, this is the core model back in the day. Weighing in at probably 6 pounds. I'm not kidding, 5.5 to 6 pounds. It is actually lighter than my Parker. It is one of the last ones. It has the squabbin pickups. See how it's squared off like that? It is stock, except for I had the pickguard changed over to black pearl from black. And other than that, it's perfectly stock. It has the absolute lowest action of any guitar I've ever owned, with no buzz. It has every possible sound. Here's your neck. Coil tapped, or split I should say. Bridge, humbucker, coil split, and then of course the middle position. 24 frets, which I don't need, but it's nice to have. Sounds like an SG, just all kind of dark because all the mahogany, and it just has a nice tone. And in fact, whenever I'm checking out a pedal or an amp or something I'm unfamiliar with, I want this guitar because it's kind of home for me. Just a cool guitar, every tone. so just, I love it. So definitely my #1 favorite guitar. All right, my Ibanez Prestige in Poison Pumpkin. This was my Christmas present to myself. This is what I bought last year for Christmas. It's a Japanese Prestige with a special neck. And here's what happened. So if you notice, I had the RG550 reissues, and I was having a little trouble with the neck. It was a little too thin. And the necks are really thin, and they're really good, but I wanted something a little different. And I started thinking about buying a gem, you know, and they're really expensive now. So I started doing some research, and what I figured out was these Prestiges, these models, are thicker, just slightly thicker than the normal Wizard, and that's what I was looking for. And so I got it. I've owned a lot of Ibanez's. In fact, if I go through all the guitars I've ever owned throughout my history of owning guitars, I've owned probably mostly Ibanez's. Not for any reasons like price point or anything like that. It was the guitar that appealed to me. Mostly because, you know, not because of my age and the era I grew up in. That's probably a little bit of the factor of it. But mostly just because I've always liked this body shape. Believe it or not, I've always liked the Strat. And Steve I once said this was a super Strat. And, you know, and so I kind of like that idea. So it's just really cool. And believe it or not, I actually bought this with the intent to have it painted. And then I talked myself out of it because I decided it's just such a cool color. And if you're asking me why would I paint over this, I wasn't really, not so much had a problem with the paint, I liked it. I just wanted a Ibanez in this, with this neck, to have something painted. So I went a different way. I bought this solely to put some lace sensors into. Okay, this has the red, silver, blue set lace sensors. Other than that, it's totally stock. Nothing has changed. I don't even have locking tuners on this. I will. Believe it or not, I just put, I play this a lot. And I just never, I don't know, I just never do anything with it. But I will have locking tuners. You know, to be honest, I didn't even recognize or notice I didn't have locking tuners on. Okay, so why do I have this? Well, it's easy. It's lace pickups. I have a thing for lace pickups. The cool thing about lace pickups, if you're familiar with them, is they are totally unique. Okay, I really love people who innovate stuff, and I love anybody who tries to make something that's good better. A lace pickup is a true single coil pickup that just doesn't make noise. Unlike most single coil noiseless pickups that actually use a humbucking concept. In other words, some way to hide the other coil. Don Lace came up with an idea. It's basically based off the Jaguar pickups. So if you look at a Jaguar pickup, I'll show you a picture right here. You see those little metal combs? You know, that was to help create another outer magnetic field that apparently stops the noise from getting in. That's what happens with laces. If you could take a lace apart, they're all epoxied together. There's those side combs. They're like neodymium magnets, and they create an outer magnetic field. And that outer magnetic field stops the frequencies or whatever the signal to get in that creates the 60-cycle hum. So they are true noiseless single coil pickups. The funny part is these fall into what I call a category of you're listening with your eyes. In other words, you look at them and they look like stuff you'd see at Epcot Disney in the 80s, right? Just looks a little, you know, plasticky and not so awesome. But they definitely have tone. There's a reason why Clapton and Beck have them. You know what it is? It's because they do everything. 2005 Jazz Deluxe. Now keep in mind, before I had this one, I had one just like it, and it was a 2002 Jazz Deluxe, just in a different color. And I actually, when I found this one, I switched. And what funny enough is that the bass is identical, but I got rid of the other one because I wanted this color. So I've been playing the same bass since 2002. Now, what's interesting with this bass? Well, it's a slightly smaller Jazz bass body. The neck is the standard Jazz Deluxe bass. It has the carbon fiber tuning keys, which are ultra light, with the hip shot. If you don't know what the hip shot is, it means with a flip of a switch, you know, as I'm upside down, I can take it to D, right? So now I'm in D. I don't know why I'm doing that. And then back to E. And you can mess with it again. So that's it. The next thing is the mute. It has a muting system on it. So, man, I don't know if I want to tell the mute story. I'm gonna get a lot in trouble. Hope you guys really appreciate the honesty I try to put in these videos, because I'm going to tell you the story. Okay, so the mute. What is the mute system? Well, if you're familiar with Victor Wooten, if you're familiar with bass, you probably, very few of you are. Victor Wooten is a bass player, and he does a lot of tapping. There's a lot of bass players out there. Stu Hamm, right? And so tapping... Right, so you get it. There's this... tapping, right? Tapping. So, in tapping, sometimes when you're hitting a note, you don't want the other notes to ring out, right? And you don't think you can hear them, but they kind of hear it. It's just that sound. So, use a mute, hair ties. So I was using a hair tie like everybody else for many years. It literally like a little kid's hair tie. You put it on the neck and you just pull it over the nut onto the strings, and it would mute the strings. So great for tapping, and also for slapping really fast. So if you hear this versus this, that's like that Stu Hamm banjo thing. Cleans it up. Right? Now, here's the story. So for some reason, all of a sudden, those hair ties were cheap. You'd buy them at the dollar store and you get tons of them. And then they would unravel. And so I went one day to get one, and they had these little brass clasps on them. And I was like, oh, these aren't good. So I went looking everywhere, and all of a sudden, to this day, you can only get the little scrunchy hair ties with the brass clasp. You know, the ones you need. You don't need them too thick or too small, right? And I couldn't figure it out. It was driving me nuts, and I didn't have a mute for my bass. So I remember Jennifer Batten had a mute when I saw her at a clinic once, when I was like 16 or 17 years old. And so, believe it or not, I emailed her and said, hey, just randomly emailed her, said, hey, I'm trying to get a mute. You know, do you sell them, right? Because I swear I saw one in the back of a magazine once, you know, back when we used to get guitar magazines. Jennifer Batten was so cool. She emails me and she says, no, I don't make them anymore. But Michelangelo Badio, you know, the double neck player guy, he makes one. It's better than mine. So I go, great. So I go to his website and I order one. Now, here's what happens. It was $90. This is it, by the way. It was $90, and it took like 5 or 6 months to get it. Okay. And when I got it, I was gonna, you know, because I have this drop D system and all this stuff in the way, I had to cut it. See how I cut it? And I shaped it and I mounted it permanently. And okay, so this is what it looks like normally. See, it's got a bracket and then it hooks to another bracket, and it's got a big pad. And the pad was too big. I didn't need that much muting, so I modified mine. So this is why the story's funny. So a couple years later, right, I hear that Michelangelo Badio is coming to do a clinic in town at a music store. So I go there and I watch the clinic. And I brought my bass because I thought, oh, he's going to be so excited to see another musician using his idea, you know, differently than him, right? Because obviously we know what he's using. He's doing that stuff, but I was like, you know, when he's I thought it'd be cool show what I was doing. So after the show, I talked to him. I told him what I was doing, and he was very nice. I wouldn't say passive about it or disinterested, but he was like, yeah, that's cool, that's great. And so after the clinic, a couple days went by and I go, you know, that's a really great system, but what if he stops making them? I better buy a backup. So I go on the website and it was weird. I couldn't figure it out. So I called because the ordering process wasn't the same. So, oh, and I should mention this too. I had him sign it, right? This one's signed. So this one was the one that was on there originally, this top piece signed, okay? So here's what's funny. So I had him sign it at the clinic and I said, this is really cool, I'm meeting you, and I talked to him. Then a couple weeks later, just like 2 weeks later, I call the website and say, I need to order another one. Again, they're like $90 and it still took about 5 months. And he gets on the phone. Now, if you've ever watched a video with him, he has a very distinctive voice. He's like, arpeggios, arpeggios, arpeggios. That's my impression. And this is why it's funny. The guy answers like, hey, Mace Music, how can I help you? And I'm like, oh yeah, hi. I need to order, you know, one of your mute systems. I have one before, and you know, I already have one. I want another one. And he's like, oh, okay, let me get the order. And he's doing the order. And I said, hey, I think I talked to you about 2 weeks ago, you know, at the clinic at the music store, right? And I said, remember you signed my thing, and I'm the one that uses it for a bass. And he says, no. Michelangelo Badio's on tour. This is the manager. I just manage the what do you call it? The merchandise. This isn't him. And I'm sitting there going, the whole time going, this is him. It's him. And here's what's funny. I just wasn't emotionally strong enough to go, dude, it's you. I can tell. I just talked to you 2 weeks ago. Right? And it was just weird. And I don't know if he's embarrassed to be selling his own merch or what the deal was. Or maybe he's got a brother. I actually, so you know, I did ask. I said, are you related to him? And he said, no. And I'm like, what? Two guys with that same voice? Like I said, watch any of his videos on YouTube. You'll see what I'm saying. It's a hard voice if you're going to come across. I could totally be wrong. I'm not trying to spread a rumor, but that story has always made me laugh. This day, I'm like, I always wonder, was that him and he was just telling me no? Or is there another dude that works for him that just sounds, maybe both of them just like, I like arpeggios, and the other guy's like, me too, I'm going to sell your merchandise. I don't know, it was kind of funny and weird. So, that's my mute story. So back to my bass. Last thing to say about this is my number one. I know the Mira is my number one for guitar. This is definitely my number one for the bass, especially since I don't even have any more basses. I got rid of them all, except for, like I said, the other one I have is a short scale. We'll go over. I'll show you that one, and then of course the Stu Ham, which is more of a collector's thing. And then for some of you, if you get upset because, you know, it's all slappy, it's just